Alright guys, let's review The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2. So what I'm going to try and do is do this in one take, and so I have written down notes on the right side of my screen. So if you catch me looking to the right, I'm looking at my notes. So let's start with the positives. The CGI and filmmaking is really good. This episode is much better than, not that much better, but it's better than the first episode in terms of the CG and the amount of infected that come. And so I was complaining about that in episode 1, where we don't really see anything except for the stalker that Ellie took her time to kill. And I mentioned how in season 1 of the show, we don't see that much infected until episode 5. And then all of a sudden, they spent most of their budget on um, a bunch of different infected, and it was a really great scene. It seems like for this particular season, their budget has increased because they have a bunch of infected running and running around this episode where we see the scene where they chase Abby at first and then they go and try and destroy Jackson, and they do successfully destroy a whole strip of that town where uh, Tommy, Maria, and a bunch of other people there are trying to defend the uh, to defend Jackson, and they are successful at first at creating a barricade, and so the runners try and run through the barricade, but they don't, and then they throw barrels at them, and eventually they throw Molotov cocktails, I believe. Uh, the technical side of this is it had me questioning why didn't they just throw uh, cocktail Molotov cocktails from the very beginning before they crash into the barricade. Why did they wait so long? Maybe that's a specific tactic that I'm not familiar with, but it seemed like they should have shut them down much faster. Anyway, uh, yes. So CG is really good, yes. So there's a bloater that attacks Tommy, and the CG is, as I say, really good, where it's my favorite version of CGI, where it's half practical and half CG, which is what they do in multiple different movies and TV shows, like Stranger Things Season 4, where we see Vecna, I think that's his name, and that is half practical with makeup, and they do all sorts of different makeup stuff where it's like it looks like it's actually Vecna, and then I'm pretty sure they go and do VFX to make it even more transform the character even more into Vecna in post-production. So that's really impressive, and I like that aspect, and the filmmaking was much better in this episode. So just from that, not the actual episode, but from that point of view, this was a much better episode to where I would give the filmmaking itself a 9 out of 10. And that's the big positive from this episode. The rest is I'm going to be talking about random changes and then negatives of things that I want to complain about, the negative aspects of this episode. So let's go to random changes. Yes, swapping characters out. So in the game, it's Ellie and Dina go on patrol, and in the show, it's Ellie and Jesse, which he does wake up. They do copy the game exactly with Jesse coming to Ellie's cabin, and so that's accurate. But then they change Dina and Ellie in one section, and then in the other section they change it to um, uh, Dina and Tommy. They swap. So um, instead of finding the sex den with Ellie and Dina, and then they have intercourse over there, some juicy lesbian action. Instead of that, they have Ellie and Jesse randomly find this 7-Eleven spot, which is full of weed. Um, and so that is replaced. Uh, so in the game, that was Eugene's place, and then the whole thing happens. So then the other swap is Dina and Joel go on patrol instead of Ellie and Dina. And so when Abby finds Joel and Tommy in the game, instead she finds Joel and Dina. What else? Yeah, so these changes are fine. Uh, the big difference is who is the audience? Is the audience the people that have played both games, which I have, and then they watch the show, or are they people that have not played the game and have only watched the show? And that makes a big difference to these changes. So, uh, if you haven't played the games, then these changes literally don't mean anything to you. And it's really good, and then you'll probably say that the episode was amazing and everything was great because you're none the wiser. How are you supposed to know? And so, uh, yeah, so if you play the game, uh, you have this romantic scene between Ellie and Dina, and they don't have that in the show. Instead it's just Ellie and Jesse having a quick conversation in that 7-Eleven place, and that's pretty much it. They stay there, and then they hear about the trouble that Joel is potentially in, and they leave. And so they might do that later in the show, where they have some kind of romantic scene, and that's fine. But right now, it just changes the way that you see the characters. So we know that Ellie and Dina have a relationship, but it's not quite that deep yet. Whereas in the game, you did see some extra action with them being romantic in that place, that Eugene's place, which they mention Eugene again, and I really don't care. Like, we don't see Eugene in the game. They mention him barely in dialogue a few times, as I said in my episode 1 review. They just mention him in dialogue in um, while Ellie and Dina are in patrol. They say Ellie says, "Oh yeah, Eugene, I love that guy," or something like that. And he's not that important in the game, so I don't know why they're making him that important in the show. Probably to make Joel look worse, because he killed him and it's Gail's husband, and so they're trying to set up, oh my God, Joel is like a bad guy, whereas uh, the real fans of the game see Joel as a hero. He is a hero, and I don't think he did anything wrong in the hospital. And yeah, he killed a lot of people, and it's probably not ideal, which is why he should be smarter when it comes to bumping into random people like Abby, which he does save her, and she's not grateful for it at all. But and that's a different thing. Anyway, changes. What else did they change? Oh yeah, random changes in dialogue. Instead of saying, oh yeah, yeah, okay. So when Abby is about to kill Joel, this I'll mention this in a more detailed way during the negatives part. But instead of saying, say whatever speech you got rehearsed and get this over with, he says to Abby, he says, uh, when she's about to grab the golf club, he says something like, just shut the fuck up and do it already. I think that's what he said, which seems like a weaker version of what he said in the game, and it's played off as a joke. So it stops the very serious tension in the room, which feels awkward for the audience. Yeah, okay, so you have a super serious scene where Abby is about to kill Joel, which if you play the game, you know is about to happen. And in the game, let's just talk about the negative aspect of the scene overall. So, oh, maybe I should cut this out. No. So, in the game, he gets shot straight away. Abby turns around as soon as, pretty much as soon as they find out that it's actually Joel Miller. Nora knocks out Tommy with a gun, and Abby shoots Joel in the foot or leg. That doesn't happen here. Joel just stands around and waits for something to happen, and Abby does a whole speech, and then she is about to grab the golf club, and then he says, just shut the fuck up and get it over with or whatever, and just do it. That's a change from the game that I'm not happy with, because it just makes Joel look pathetic and weak when both of them, Joel and Tommy, are war veterans. They went to war. They were in the military. They even show it in season 1, episode 1, where Joel drives away and you can see veteran like a sticker on his car. So, um, what am I trying to get at? Yeah, the way he dies is even worse than the game, because in the game it makes logical sense that he would die um, like the way that he died, getting bashed in the head with a golf club. That's another change. Instead of doing that, Abby shoots him, then grabs the golf club, hits him in the leg multiple times, then we cut back eventually, and she's punching him in the face instead of just using the golf club, because in the game and in the show, she says, you don't get to do this slowly. Oh no, you don't get to rush this. And so this makes sense actually. This kind of change makes logical sense because in the game she says you don't get to rush this, but then she rushes it by hitting Joel in the head with a golf club, which is far more dangerous than hitting him in the leg multiple times. So they changed that in the show, which actually is obviously not good from people that love Joel, which includes me, obviously. But from a logical point of view, that's actually a good change because that would be taking it slow because she wants to kill him slowly. So that's what she does. And so then she punches him, and then she ends up breaking the golf club and stabs the. This is when Ellie already comes in, and she's pinned to the ground by Manny. And we watch Joel die with Abby stabbing him, which I thought was like a knife or a sword, but it ends up being the end of the or she broke off the golf club and she stabs him in the face with it, and that's how Joel dies, which makes more sense for her motivation of taking it slow. So that's both really bad and also really good in the same time in terms of it's bad because Joel dies, but it's good because of the logic of her statement. What else? Yeah. Oh, I didn't really finish my sentence. Yeah, him saying that it's just shut the fuck up and do it. It's played for jokes, which this is a really serious scene, so I'm not sure why they did that. They should have just done it like the game. Uh, well, yeah. So once again, people that didn't play the game don't care about these small details. Right, let's go to negatives, which I already mentioned the part about Joel, but now I will explain how I think they made Tommy look weak and kind of pathetic. Um, it's not that bad. At first, he seems like a leader. He seems uh, really good. He's a good man, and Maria looks at him during that speech in that house where everyone is listening to him and they respect him, and Maria looks like she's proud of him, and that seems really good. And so they present him as someone that is a good leader in making speeches and stuff. And when he begins the combat, he is also still good. Like he's shooting runners during the barricade scene, and he's commanding people to do things like a good uh, war veteran would do, and he seems like he knows what he's doing. But then the bloater starts attacking him later on, and this is where he looks pathetic once again. He, by the way, he doesn't do the typical thing where you do in the game, where you start off by throwing cocktail molotovs at the bloater, and then you start shooting him. He does the opposite. He starts shooting it, and then he gets a flamethrower, which that was a really cool scene. And it looks badass on camera, but also a flamethrower is just like a shotgun. It's a close range weapon, and when they shot it, they went into a wide shot where they showed the bloater and Tommy at the same time, of Tommy attacking the bloater with the flamethrower, and it just seems like that distance could have been a little bit closer. So that seems a little bit more realistic, but that doesn't really matter. The point in when Tommy looks weak is with that exact scene where he is attacking the bloater with a flamethrower. So from a technical point of view, it makes sense that the bloater would die because the bloater would die after the two flamethrower shots. So what happens in the game is you need to usually set the bloater on fire somehow. At probably once is enough, but usually twice is pretty good. And then you shoot it or the opposite. So in the show, it's the opposite. Tommy shoots the bloater multiple times, and then uh, in a different corner, he uses the flamethrower, and on the second go with it, the bloater dies. But before the bloater dies, this is where he just looks terrible. He starts getting scared and literally sits down on his ass. And it just doesn't look good. He should stand up and fight the bloater like a man. And I know that sounds a little bit stereotypical, but it's true. He's he's an experienced war veteran. Why is he sitting down when he needs to fight this blood? I understand that he's scared, but he shouldn't be. He is a tough guy, and I just think that looked pathetic where uh, the bloater is about to die and he sits down in uh, on the snow. And then the bloater collapses in front of him and the bloater dies. And it turns out that Tommy had a gun the whole time. So why didn't he just stand up after the flamethrower runs out of whatever you want to call it, energy or fire. When it runs out, why doesn't he just run around the bloater, get his gun, and start shooting. What's with this pussyfooting attitude? I don't know. It just seems like they did that on purpose to just make him look scared or make him look weak, and it just I don't get it. Anyway, um, because once again, both Joel and Tommy went through the entire first game, so they should be familiar with all the infected and how they operate. So why do these characters hesitate to kill the enemies when it's required, especially considering they are experienced fighters. They know how to fight. It's not like a random person that would be obviously terrified of a bloater. It's not a random. It's Tommy. He should be experienced enough to fight the bloater and not sit down on the snow and be scared. Um, yeah. What else is there? Yeah, I think I mentioned pretty much everything. Okay, so once again, it's pretty much the same. I think this entire show is going to be the same thing in terms of my rating. It's going to stay roughly the same. And once again, I am biased because I didn't like part two, the game. I thought the story wasn't that good, but the actual graphics and combat was pretty good. And so the rating of each episode is going to stay roughly the same. Um, this episode was much better in terms of action, in terms of filmmaking, in terms of CG, in terms of excitement, in terms of character building, in terms of yeah, it was really dramatic, and you know, the music was good. So I gave episode 1 a 6 out of 10 in total, and episode 2 I will give this is tough because I did have some complaints about making certain characters look weaker than what they are. And so I would hesitate to say 8, but because the filmmaking was so good, I would say, yeah, probably somewhere between a 7 and an 8. So to be pretentious, I would say 7.5 out of 10. And I'm pretty sure I missed some things, but this video is probably quite long already, so I'll probably sign off. Just give me a few seconds to think if I forgot anything. Oh yeah, so I was incorrect in my episode 1 review. I thought that Ellie and Dina were out in patrol, but it turns out it's a completely random scene, and that's something that I'm learning now, that they are just adding random scenes that are not part of the game at all. That's another thing. The whole raid with the runners and infected in general invading Jackson, that's not part of the game at all. And yeah, so yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.